Growing up, I played a lot of Flash games. You know, it was like the alternative to commercial games, right? Because they're all free and you have access to a bunch of them. I have a vague memory of being a kid sitting in my family's old computer room, and either I or my brother were playing the Scary Maze game, which let me know if you remember that game or if you've played it. It used to be like a big thing, I guess. Like it's like a maze like Flash game, but then if you screw up or you get to the end, it like jump scares you with the girl from The Exorcist. That was like a big thing, like recording your friends getting scared by that and putting it on YouTube. But that's the thing with Flash games, like it's not like a regulated, like rated system. Like you can go on and just find like the craziest stuff. Especially as a kid, like you'll just be like playing through a fun Flash game and then you'll see something that you knew like you probably weren't supposed to be seeing this. Or more often you would find a game that was just really spooky or even just like disturbing. So I'm going to talk about some of those that I remember and that I think are really notable. Dark Cut. This is like a classic Flash game. I feel like I feel like a lot of people know about this one. I mean, Markiplier played it, so that's my gauge for how popular a Flash game is if he played it. It's like this medieval dark fantasy game, and you're like this doctor who has to do this sequence of quests. Kind of reminds me of all those like doctor games made for like small babies or something, except those are like somehow creepier than this. But no, this game was crazy. I remember as a kid I was like, oh man dude, it's all like bloody and gory and shit, and you know, it had that, like I said, it had like a dark fantasy aesthetic, so it felt like really cool, man. The first mission is like you have to take an arrow out of like a soldier's leg or something, and they actually say in the thing like, oh, let's get this arrow out because we need him back on the battlefield tomorrow. And it's like, god damn, dude, this guy's tough if he can just get shot by an arrow and then be back in battle the next day. That's crazy. The next one is you have to get rid of this guy's bubonic plague. And this one's definitely like, I feel like this is the one that grosses out everyone. You have to like slit open the bubbles and like fucking drain them with leeches. It's pretty sick. it's pretty nasty. But I mean, I guess that's just how they did things back then. And then the last one, instead of healing someone, you have to deal with a fucking vampire. It's kind of like I feel like it's kind of a huge escalation. But it's honestly kind of sick. I like how it went in that direction of like, okay, now we need you to take care of this vampire. Insert, you know, a little bit of fantasy in there. I actually really like the concept of this game where like you're playing as a doctor instead of like a hero or an adventurer or something. I've always liked the concept of a character who can like fight evil, not because he's like particularly strong, but just because he has so much like knowledge of like science and the supernatural, so like he knows what to do, you know, sort of like a Van Helsing type thing. So I think that's pretty sick. So yeah, this game is pretty cool. It's not really that scary, but it does have like that dark aesthetic that as a kid I was like, this is sick, man, and felt intense. It felt pretty intense. Like I was really fighting for my life here, trying to kill this vampire before it woke up or something. The music for this game is also like really good if you listen to it. It's pretty badass actually. It's great. Also, this is just like a random fact, but the music for some reason uses samples from the Halo 3 trailer.
I have defied gods and demons.
That's just like a random thing I noticed. Kind of funny. But yeah, that's about all I have to say for Dark Cut. It's a pretty simple, straightforward, and short game. There were some sequels, but I never played those. Sorry. The next game is Meat Mansion. I like to think of this game as like Flash game off-brand version of Resident Evil. Now I feel bad saying that, but for a Flash game, it's actually pretty sick. It's basically just like a haunted house. You have to go through, try to escape, and you're fighting like zombies and stuff. Now this game, unlike Dark Cut, this game actually terrified me as a kid. When you're a kid, things are quite a bit scarier. A lot of things. I remember the first few times I played this game, like I couldn't even get past the first room. Like I was afraid to leave the first room because it was just so scary. And to be fair, the game like sets up a pretty good atmosphere at the beginning. It's not like a low effort game. Like I feel like someone probably spent a lot of time making this. There is some gore, some pretty crazy gore, even though it's like cartoony, like Flash. Everything's kind of drawn in that almost MS Paint style. It still is pretty crazy, especially as a kid. It felt pretty intense. The way the enemies slowly shamble towards you is genuinely kind of spooky. There's a hallway early on in the game where like you see a shadow coming around the corner, and then you see the girl. It's like the Ring, it's like the girl from the Ring, and then she starts like coming down the corridor towards you with an axe. I think that was the second part that like I got stuck on as a kid. Like I tried playing again later, and I got like that far, and then I had to stop because it just freaked me out. That little girl scared the hell out of me. There is one more cool moment where you go into a room and there's like chains on the walls, but they're like going up into the ceiling, and then you can lower the like attic stairs down, and if you go up, you see that the chains are holding back like this giant zombie monster thing. It's a pretty cool little moment, and then you have to like go back down and cut the chains, and then like there's this moment of anticipation, right? Because you just cut the chains to free the monster, so you're gonna have to go back up there and face this thing and kill it. I don't know, that part always stuck with me. Nothing too crazy, but just like little moments like that. Again, for a Flash game, I think it's pretty cool. Also, the thing looks like, I'm pretty sure it's like copied straight from 300, like one of the Persian executioner guys. It looks exactly like that to me. And yes, this thing also scared the hell out of me as a kid. But other than fighting monsters, the game is basically just like a puzzle, like one of those escape room type things. You have to look around, point and click, find items to use in other places to try to progress. And yeah, I just like the simple and straightforward like haunted house, zombie sort of vibe of this game. It's kind of just like everything, like all the creepy ideas, like, ooh, wouldn't it be creepy if there was like a butcher room with blood, and if there was like a jump scare with the ghost or something, just like it feels like a bunch of like haunted house ideas like put together in a game, and it's fun. I like it. There are a few bullshit parts where the items are just like impossible to find. Like, look at this razor. You have to click on the corner of this painting. There's no indication that it's there at all. You just have to click around and find it. Once you finally manage to escape the house, there's an extra mode where you have to like go outside the house and fight waves of enemies until the sun comes out. It's pretty simple, honestly, and it's pretty easy. You just have to manage your ammo. There is a sequel to this, Meat Mansion 2, where they upgraded some things. Some of the animations look better. There's like new game mechanics. I don't really have too much to say about this one though, because it's very similar overall, and also because I died like halfway through the game, and I didn't feel like restarting. So that's it. That's Meat Mansion 2. So the next game is The Last Stand, and this game is awesome. This game is just like a classic. This is a like zombie survival game. It's one of those types of games where like you have a base and you have to defend it from waves of enemies. But it's like, it's really well done. And I mean, all the games I've talked about, obviously there's been work put into them. But this one just like feels different. Like it's very like, a lot of it's very just like well done for a Flash game. Just like the visuals themselves are very like stylistically cool. Like, the first thing you see, the main menu, I think is really cool for a Flash game. The whole game actually has this kind of like more gritty style. And it's obviously still like animation, but it really fits for you know, the zombie apocalypse setting. But yeah, I really like this game. I remember talking about it with my friends all the time, like at school. It's pretty straightforward in terms of mechanics. Like I said, it's just like waves of zombies coming at you, and you have to shoot them down before they destroy your base. At the end of each night, you get to go to a little menu where you can like pick different options to do. Basically, like during the day you get 12 hours, right? And you have to choose how you're going to spend those hours. So you can either repair your barricade, you can search for weapons, or you can search for other people. And like I said before, this game can be pretty hard. I remember really struggling with it. I could never beat it as a kid. But this time around, I found out that the way to win actually is to just prioritize looking for other people. Because not only does that give you other people who are, you know, shooting, and basically like multiplies, you know, your firing rate, they also help you do all the tasks during the day. So like if you need to repair your barricade, having 6 people makes it like 4 times as fast or something like that. It's really, really helpful. You do also get to look for weapons, and once you fill up like this little meter, you find a new weapon. But it was hard to kind of see the differences between the later weapons and my earlier ones, especially because there's one kind of problem with the game, and it's that it lags. It lags pretty badly. The more enemies there are, as the nights progress, the more it lags. And at first I thought it was just me, but apparently other people have this problem too. So yeah. So obviously this is good kind of like, you know, zombie spooky game. It never really scared me as a kid to where like I didn't want to play it. I don't know why this never scared me, but it didn't that much. It did feel intense though, like just the art style and everything. It did feel very intense seeing these zombies walking towards my base. It's just not something that like kept me up at night, you know. At the end of the last night, if you survive the final wave of zombies, a helicopter actually comes down with like soldiers and rescues you and all your people. And that's the end of The Last Stand, at least the first game. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but there is a sequel to this game, which I think is actually even better. It's a fantastic game. So in The Last Stand 2, you start off with the main menu, and there's a crashed helicopter. So that kind of doesn't bode well for our hero here. Yeah, so the game starts, and the story is that you were in the helicopter, but then like someone in the helicopter was infected, so everything goes to hell, and the helicopter crashes. So you're kind of back at square one. And so in The Last Stand 2, you have to survive each day. It's basically the same like core concept, you know. You have a barricade and you have to defend it from the horde of zombies that are coming at you. But this time there is a twist, and here's where it gets pretty cool. It's revealed at the beginning of the game that they're gonna quarantine like the whole country or mainland or whatever, and you have 40 days to get to Union City in order to get to like the last boat to leave or whatever, right? So like it's an interesting thing where it's like instead of just staying in one spot and trying to survive, you have the secondary goal of actually trying to travel to Union City. So you're moving locations every few nights and actually setting up a new barricade in a different town each time. There's a map you get, and it's actually pretty interesting. Instead of just having a straight line to Union City, they give you different paths you can take. And you don't even have to go forward all the time. Sometimes you can like go forward, double back to another place, and then keep going forward again, which I don't know like strategically if that would actually ever have an advantage, but it might, because you can't just travel at any time you want. You have to spend time looking for supplies. You actually get a map of the town you're in, like all the different buildings in the town, and you get to actually pick individually which buildings you're gonna search during the day. And each building has like a different amount of hours that it's gonna take to look through. It's a really cool concept, and it's actually really fun. I remember when I was a kid, I was playing this and I was trying to keep track of like all the different items that each building gave me in a town, so that when like I replayed, I knew where to go for certain stuff. And then I just realized that like it's randomized anyways, so none of that mattered. But yeah, as you're searching the town, you can find weapons, you can find like traps, like bear traps and propane tanks that you can like put on the floor and then blow up in the middle of the night. You can find people, of course, and you can find supplies. Supplies are what you need to travel to a different location. Each location has a different distance between them, so you need a certain amount of supplies before you can go to different places. Also, different buildings in the town have like different rates of things that they'll give you. Like, so for example, if you want to find weapons, you probably want to search like the gun shop. But if you want to find people, you might want to search through houses. It becomes like a really interesting and like surprisingly depthful game, because you know you're balancing all these aspects of like, okay, we need to find enough supplies, and we want to go to this town, but if we save up, you know, a little more supplies, we can go to maybe this next town that's a little bit further along our road. But also maybe this other town has better supplies, but it also has more zombies and it's more dangerous. The different towns have like different population numbers that are listed, which suggests to you, hey, maybe this town might have less stuff or might have more stuff. It's really in depth actually. It's really cool. I just love this game. I think it's one of the best Flash games I ever played in my youth, and probably one of my favorites of all time. Again, it never really scared me like I was afraid to play it, but it does have that kind of gritty, gory, violent sort of vibe to it, and it always felt very intense and exciting. I have actually beaten this game before, but this time I did not. While I was recording for this video, I was trying to beat the game. I ended up losing because I ran into a bug where I had enough supplies to travel, but it wasn't letting me travel. Like it just wouldn't let me. And also I had exhausted like all the buildings in town, so I couldn't even try to find more supplies if that would even help. So I kind of just got locked into like a state of, you know, you're screwed. So there wasn't really anything I could do there. I might have won, but instead I just fought until the end, and that was it. So that's The Last Stand and its sequel. Really great games, really well made. I know there were a bunch of other Last Stand games. I never really played those, but I mean, seeing how good these ones are, those might be actually good, and honestly might be worth playing. I don't know, let me know if you've ever played the other Last Stand games and how good they are. The Day is kind of an inconspicuous game. I don't think it's very well known. I mean, I've never seen anyone talk about it. I just sort of found it one day, but it always stuck with me. It looks pretty normal on the surface, but it gets more interesting as you play. So the basic premise of the game is you're this girl named Tia. It's your birthday, and you gotta go have a fun little birthday adventure in the little village that you live in. Your dad gives you like a playing card. All like the kids in the village have this like card game that they play. So you're supposed to go out and play all the kids in the village at this card game. And yeah, everything's pretty normal until your dad, you know, before you go, he says, "Oh, by the way, don't go into the trees or the guards will kill you. That's how your Uncle Jack died." Happy birthday, Tia! So with that, you're off into the game. So like I was saying, the main sort of gameplay of the game is this card game. Two people put out whatever playing cards they have, and whoever has like the stronger cards wins and gets to take all the losers' cards. It's a really bad design for a card game. Like that would never work in real life. That's a terrible rules for a card game. But it works for the game because you have to go through, like, strategically go through the village and see like which kids have the weakest cards, and then like play against them so you can progress to like the kids with the stronger and the stronger cards. So it's a good little mechanic for a game. It makes you think and strategize a little bit, and you spend maybe, I don't know, 5 or so minutes doing it. Now, of course, since this video is about creepy and disturbing Flash games, that's not all there is to this game. Obviously, your dad said something weird about your Uncle Jack dying from the guards in the trees. And as you go through the game, there are hints of like something being off. You can talk to some of the adults in the town, and sometimes they'll give very short expositional dialogue about sort of vague references to like the Troubles or something. There's also these like security cameras. It looks like security cameras that like follow you around wherever you move in the village. So obviously there's something going on here, and you're in some sort of like guarded village. It almost feels like an internment camp or something. Another hint comes from the cards. The cards are all like military themed. There's like soldiers, tanks. There's what looks like a missile silo. There's also one called laser drone, which doesn't look, it looks kind of alien. It doesn't really look like normal human military technology. So it sort of raises the question of like, why do the cards look like this? One thing I noticed is that they kind of look like almost like a alternate form of Polaroid photographs. It's hard to tell because like the art style of the game, obviously like everyone is pixelated. So it's hard to tell if these cards are supposed to be like drawings or maybe photographs. That's a theory I have, is that these cards are actually like some sort of Polaroid photograph that's been just like written on and turned into these morbid playing cards. But if that's the case, that means there must have been some sort of huge war or something if all these photographs exist. But we can only really just sort of speculate. Once you've played all the kids in the camp and gotten the strongest playing cards, you can go back to your dad, who says, you know, how proud he is that you won the game and you get to have your birthday cake. And that's the end of the game. So it's a really interesting game that makes you kind of think about like, what is the backstory here? And I think the most interesting part of this game is that the entire game I just explained to you is a diversion. You don't have to do any of it. See, the adults are telling you to not go into the trees. At any point in the game, even at the very beginning, you can go to the left side of the map and find this little path that leads into the woods, into the trees. Now, if you choose to disobey the adults who told you not to go into the trees, you go through this passage and find yourself in this sort of like maze of trees and chain link fencing outside of town. Once you find your way through this area, you end up at this concrete building, presumably the facility where the guards you've been hearing about must be stationed. But when you go in, the entire thing is run down and empty. There is no sign of human life except for scattered corpses. There are some computers that are running in this place. You find out that the cameras that were following you are just automatically programmed to follow people. They're sending the video feed to nobody. And you realize that the entire time you thought your camp was being watched by these guards or whatever, there was actually no one. There was no one left. They're all gone or dead. Eventually you actually find the corpse of your Uncle Jack. It's pretty horrific. Reading one of the computer logs, you realize that he was killed not by a guard, but by some sort of automatic security measure, meaning he must have explored this place and found it empty just like you did, except he just met an unfortunate end. Another computer shows some sort of log left by whoever was at this facility. It says, received the final pullout order, abandoning the internees. They can watch themselves. May God have mercy on us all. When you get to the end of the facility, there's a door that leads to the outside, and what I consider the true ending of the game. You go to the outside world, and the camera begins to zoom out to show what Tia is seeing. First, you see the massive wreckage of what looks like one of the laser drones from the playing cards, but it's destroyed. And next to it, there's like a huge crater or something. And finally, it zooms out all the way, and you see that the facility is just this lone thing in the middle of a huge, destroyed, barren wasteland of craters. It's pretty simple, but I thought it was a really cool and interesting ending, and it always stuck with me. Just such a simple idea for a game, but with a cool twist. First off, being that, you know, your village is actually alone and is not being watched by any guards or anything anymore. And then second off, the realization that you're alone, like, just in the middle of the world. In a lot of ways, it's a very simple, quick Flash game, but I just thought it was really interesting, and it always stuck with me. I always remember that ending. Also, as a side note, the creator linked like his site on the main menu, and I just went there to check it out. I actually realized while making this video that the creator of the day has made a lot of Flash games that I know and that I've played before, including one of my favorite Flash games ever, How to Raise a Dragon. Unfortunately, that game is neither creepy nor disturbing, so it's not going to fit in this video, but I don't know, maybe another one. Alright, so just a fair warning, the next couple games I'm going to talk about actually get pretty disturbing. Not very pleasant topics in these ones. This game's called Animal Puncher, so that should give you an idea of what this game is going to be about. It's a very literal title. But I found this game one day, and yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Basically, it starts out, and you're these two teenagers in the woods. Well, you're one guy, and then you're with your friend. And you find an injured cat in the middle of the forest, and your friend convinces you that you guys have to put it out of its misery, leading to the first sequence in this game where you attack this cat with your fist until it is deceased. This part is actually like the most fucked up part in the game. After that, you see our main characters at school, I guess the next day, and your friend Eric tells you that last night wasn't a mistake, and you have to go back to the woods to punch more animals. And we get this really creepy close-up on Eric. It's really disturbing looking. I don't like looking at it. So the main mechanic of the game is, as you might have guessed, punching animals. Every night you go to the woods, you punch a certain amount of animals. As it progresses, Eric keeps saying progressively creepier and creepier things, like this is just the way of nature, and talking about how doing this gives him some sort of great feeling of power. Eventually you get these boss fights, like you have to fight like a wolf and a bear. So obviously our characters are getting pretty strong if they can fucking fist fight a grizzly bear. There's a part where Eric makes you take magic mushrooms, and everything gets all messed up. At a certain point we get this scene where it looks like Eric is having a bad dream, apparently about some memory from his childhood, where he and his mom were driving in the car, and they crashed, and Eric's mom was still trapped in the car with the engine on fire. And you get this scene where you have to try to punch your mom out of the car before she dies. So maybe, I don't know, Eric has some like messed up complex because he couldn't save his mom when he was a kid, so he has to like try to kill animals to feel more powerful. I don't know. It's pretty horrible though. On the final night, you find out that Eric has progressed beyond animals and has now killed a person, like a park ranger. And this is where the player's character has had enough and feels like it's gone too far. So now you have to fight Eric himself in the final battle. It's not too bad. You mainly just have to block most of the time and then figure out the timing of when to attack. The final cutscene shows you standing over Eric's body, and then later the cops are there searching the scene, but the body has disappeared. And then the last thing you see is all of the animals in the woods with bloody remains of Eric. I'm assuming what's being implied is the animals got rid of the body themselves as some sort of final act of revenge. And that's the end of the game. Like I said, it's pretty fucked up, and it's pretty horrible. Obviously playing this, you know, as like a young teen, I think I was, that stuck in my mind. It's a pretty memorable experience. I'm gonna make an honorable mention really quick to a very short little Flash game I found one day called Hero's Adventure. So this is the game where you're just like a boy living with his family in the woods, and you go out to have an adventure one day, and you basically just progress through the woods and sort of very typical like RPG style battles, random encounters with animals in the woods, like rats and rabbits or whatever. Obviously, you can probably see that there's some parallels here to Animal Puncher. When you get to the end of the woods in this game, you get to this spot, and when you interact, it says, "You bury the dead animals in your secret place. It's time to go home." You go home, you wash the blood off your hands, And then at the end, your parents have a short talk about how living isolated in the woods might not be best for you growing up. And that's it. That's the game. It's a super quick game. I'm pretty sure you can beat it in like 2 minutes. I just thought it needed an honorable mention because it feels like a prequel to Animal Puncher, basically. And I thought it was a fun little sort of twist on like classic RPG things. Like, you know, low levels in an RPG, you're usually fighting like random forest animals. But it kind of makes you think like, what kind of psychopaths would just run around like killing, slaughtering like boars and stuff in the woods for hours? Also, weirdly enough, the battle music is like really badass in this game, even though the battles are super fast. All right, the last game that I wanted to talk about is Orange Roulette. This game is probably the only one that I've talked about that could probably match Animal Puncher in terms of how disturbing it is. You play as an orange. You have to face off against other oranges in a game of Orange Roulette, which is a game where you take a banana and there is a 1 in 6 chance that the banana will juice your orange. Obviously, you can tell the real life analogy for this, which is it's probably why this game is so fucked up, because like it is actually so graphic and disturbing. And the only thing like standing between like this being one of the most fucked up games of all time is the fact that it's oranges and bananas, but it's still just like so detailed and horrific and like oddly real. Like you can see the oranges just have these look of fucking like terror on their faces. They're twitching and they're wincing every time a trigger gets pulled. As the game goes on, the music gets like more disturbing, and there are even like hallucinations in the background. There are various actions you can take. You don't just have to pull the trigger every time. You can spin the cylinder. You can try pulling the trigger on your opponent, but if that fails, then you have to turn it back around on yourself immediately without spinning the cylinder. I guess you can use these to strategize a little bit, but when it comes down to it, it is just pure luck. So it's a nerve-wracking game. There's an easy mode where you get to start at the beginning of whatever match you lost on. And then there's also a hard mode where you have to start from the beginning each time. And that's just like, I don't want to do that because it's just pure luck at that point. Like, it's not really that fun. Not that this game is particularly fun anyways, but it is very memorable. There seems to be some sort of story going on here, very vague story. Our main character seems to be some sort of prisoner who's being given a chance to leave if he wins a bunch of these games. As you go, your opponents become weirder and weirder until you just start seeing like straight up fucking monsters and like weird demons. And at the very end, once you finally beat the final game, we see our character in a bin of oranges being sold at the market. It's weirdly fucked up in like a kind of funny way. I don't know, this game is just really, really awful. So that's all the games I wanted to talk about. And I'm actually genuinely curious, do kids like still play Flash games? I mean, I know Flash is over, but like, do kids still play browser games? Like, do kids still go on like addictinggames.com or like Armor Games? Like, is that still a thing? I'm genuinely curious because it was a big thing when I was growing up. So hopefully some kids are still getting traumatized to this day. And last thing, big shout out to Flashpoint Archive. This is like a launcher for Flash games, and it has archived a lot of old Flash games, a lot of classic Flash games. Most of the games I talked about in this video are there, and in fact, 1 or 2 of them I could only find on Flashpoint. I couldn't find them just like on the internet anymore. So huge shout out to them. If you're interested in playing Flash games, you should go download that because it's really good. Other than that, that's all I had to say for this video. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you around. Bye.